you have to pay attention to how you feel when you're running your business every day. And I promised myself that when I am tired and when I cannot give my team and my clients 150%, it was time to pack it in.
Welcome to the Hairpreneur Show, the show that teaches you, the hair pro, how to work smarter so you can make more, work less, and live a purpose-driven life on your schedule, not your clients'. I'm your host, Ryan Weeden, and each week I'll teach you awesome, actionable ways to tap into your personal greatness. Through marketing, mindset, and confidence training, it's time to unlock the next level of you. Let's grow. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hairpreneur Show. Today is a special episode because not only are we coming off this incredibly long hiatus, I think it was like over 2 months that I haven't did a podcast or completed a sentence with the correct grammar. We've got some exciting guests along the way, and our first one back is Nina Tulio. She is a rock star and a new friend of mine. I met her very recently, and I was on her podcast with Jade Ladner, the podcast host of No Stylist Left Behind, and you have an ebook or multiple ebooks, multiple courses. There's so much I wanted to dive in with you, but let's first welcome Nina Tulio to the Hairpreneur stage.
Ooh, I'm so excited. I love this. And I got to see you twice this week because we recorded again. You were already a guest on our podcast and then you were on a second time. So this is nice. We get to hang out 2 times in 1 week. It's been awesome. And I've laughed a ton.
Yeah, we were laughing just a bunch before this when I was trying to show you something in my studio and I turned my computer around and realized I wasn't using that camera. I was using another camera, total technology fart. And I said, I didn't drink anything. I didn't smoke anything, but it's probably the years of all that built up. So Nina, you have been in the business for a very long time, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go to college?
I did not go to college.
So did you go straight into hair after high school?
I did. So I was actually a vocational student. So I just wasn't a student of school. It wasn't for me. Like I just dreaded going to school every single day. And so when I was young, I already knew at a very young age that I wanted to either A, be a dolphin trainer or B, be a hairstylist. And so once I found out that I had to go to college and dorm, like room with other people and share a bathroom with like 30 people, I was like, no, this is not going to work. I'm going to forego the dolphin training situation and I'm going to go to beauty school. So I went to Votech, and right out of Votech, I went and finished because I had about 250 hours left. And then I went to Allentown School of Cosmetology and finished my 250 hours as a night student.
That's amazing. When I asked you that initially, I'm like, did you go to college? I'm not just trying to judge you based on like, how educated are you? I just looked at this. I'm 25 years. You don't look like you could possibly have done hair for 25 years. You look young, you look vibrant, you look fresh, you know? And I'm like, I just figured you probably went to hair school as soon as you could. And that's why I asked that question, not because I'm being a jerk. I went to college. I didn't get anything done. So, if I could go back and not go to college, I would.
I think it's so funny. Every time I say 25 years, I feel like a fossil. Like I feel like I've been in this business I'm like a dinosaur. I feel like I've been in the business for so long, but thank you for saying that. I do try to stay young and fresh and I really, really do. And I think it's the industry that keeps me young. It's the industry that keeps me that way, which is cool,
Absolutely. I think we are in one of the best industries to keep us young because we're always trying to make everyone else in our chair look beautiful, young, and vibrant, no matter what age they are. So you got into coaching. Let's even rewind even more than that. So you started out doing hair after you realized being a dolphin trainer wasn't going to work out, or you realized that you would have to go and take a lot of extra training and learn how to speak dolphin and all those prerequisites. Then you got into hair. And is hair something that you had thought about before, or is it just like, why not?
No, it's something that I thought about before. And I knew I love animals. It's like my second passion. I really, really love animals. If I could, one of my things would be to open up a dog rescue or a ranch. My husband and I talk about that all the time. I really would love to start a nonprofit doing that. So my love for animals really pulled me in the direction of wanting to be, with dolphins and do all the training. But I already knew that I wanted to be a hairstylist. Like, even though they're so completely opposite, I knew that. And I don't want to say like, oh, I was playing with Barbies and I was doing all those things, but because I really wasn't, but I was into fashion. I was into makeup. I was into doing my friend's hair. And it was something that really piqued my interest. And when I went to high school, again, I wasn't a student. Like I had, let's say I had algebra 1 when I was a senior in high school, a senior. And I almost failed. I had like a 59 and I was like, please, I need to graduate. Like, give me a point, and I had to do an extra credit so I could finish my math. So math really wasn't my thing, which is so crazy because now I work so heavily into numbers. But I think that going to high school and seeing that there was a cosmetology training program, I was like, oh my God, I can do this. I was the first to sign up in my class and I dove headfirst into my cosmetology course. Like that was my everything. And I excelled. I was a straight A student because I barely was getting C's when I was in, high school. But it was something that I was so passionate about. So that's why I thrived. I loved my teacher and I really was dedicated and I knew that I wanted to be a salon owner and I knew that this was going to be my course, at a young age. So yeah, I kind of did know when I was a little girl.
And how young were you when you actually went into school?
So when I knew, I was probably in middle school when I was like, okay, I'm going to be a hairstylist. And then 9th grade, you can't sign up for Votech until you're in 10th grade. But 9th grade, I already had, the paperwork and I was all ready to go. That's why I was first to sign up. And so already then, so I would say middle school was when I probably really committed to it. And then I was all in. It was so fascinating to me. Like everything that we learned, like everything that we did in class, like I was just really excited. It wasn't like a course in Votech that I just took to pass time. Like I knew that this was going to be my future, so I dedicated a lot of time and attention to it.
That's amazing. And then, so how long after did you open your first salon? How old were you when you did that?
So lots of stuff happened in between. So when I graduated from beauty school in 1996, oh my God, 1990. And listen, we're the same age because you told me how old you were before. So 1996 graduated. And then I worked at a really small salon. But then I also worked part-time at Circuit City. Do you remember Circuit City?
Circuit City. I used to love Circuit City. And I still sometimes say, oh, I got to run down to Circuit City thinking it's Best Buy, of course. I still get it confused. But I remember going in there when like the new CDs would come out and they would have those giant long packages so you couldn't walk out with one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I got a job at Circuit City and I'm so glad that I did. So I was working 2 jobs, hair salon, Circuit City. I met so many of my friends that I still have to this day, 25 years deep, into our friendship now at Circuit City. I also became a customer service manager for Circuit City. And I did a really extensive training for 7 weeks in Virginia, all management training. So it kind of prepped me for what I'm, doing today and how to manage people and how to lead. And so I did that for a while. I worked 2 jobs for a long time. And so that was probably 1920. And then I ended up going into a walk-in salon, which is where I met my 2 mentors. They're still my mentors to this day, although one has since passed last year. But I met them when I was 20 years old, started working at this walk-in salon that then turned into me being a hairstylist, then me managing the salon, and then me being the district manager of that salon. So I had 8 locations that I managed, 55 employees. And then I stopped doing hair for a little while because I managed the entire company. And so that was when I was probably 22, 23. And then the owners of that company, they had 200 hair salons. They were my mentors. I mean, how cool is that? So when you asked me if I went to college, that was my college education. Working with them, learning business, literally with them every day for 8 years. I could not have asked for better people to learn from, kind people, generous people, and so damn smart in the way that they were running their businesses. So I learned all of my hair education business from them. So after that, they ended up selling all of their salons. We all moved to West Palm Beach, Florida. So now I'm probably about 24 at this time, maybe even 25. We moved to West Palm Beach and we opened 5 salons in Southern California in 1 year.
And this is all the same company?
All the same company. So
so you said walk-in salon. Does that mean like a Supercuts or something like that? Or is it like a boutique salon that has just lots of locations?
It was a private salon. So it was a husband and wife. So the husband owned 200 of his own separate salons. And then she opened up her own salons and opened 8. And she was the person that I worked for. And she was the person that I ran all of those salons. And it was called 20-Minute Haircut. It was its own private, it wasn't a franchise or anything like that. She started it on her own. So I got a lot of experience and I met a lot of awesome stylists working there. And I learned so much working there. And so I worked there probably behind the chair, maybe about 2 years. And then that's when I was district manager for maybe another year or so. And then they sold. So he sold his 200s. She sold her 8. And then we all moved to Florida and started a new company. And it was called Johnny Blades. And we started a new chain of salons and we opened up 5 in 1 year. And at that time, so now we're getting into 2005, I built a new condo in Florida. That was when it was booming. Like real estate was booming in Florida and all over the country at that time. So I ended up building a condo there, moved to West Palm Beach. And we did that in 1 year. It was a lot of work and we got it done. And after that, and after being with them for 8 years, I just felt like I needed to fly solo. I needed to do something for me because I was so used to working with Robin and I felt like I was almost in her shadow that I really needed to do my own thing and walk away. And it's so funny that we're talking about this because I was just sharing this with my husband as we were walking outside today, that when I left her and Ray, and I walked away from a lot. Like they took care of me. I mean, at the time 2005, I was making $65,000 a year. I had a Mercedes-Benz that was paid for. I had a company gas card. I never paid for gas. I had a cell phone paid for. I had insurance paid for. I had my health benefit. Everything was paid for. And I walked away from that and went and left Florida and went back to Pennsylvania to start my own business. I had no job. I was teaching dance class. And I walked away from all of that. I had to give the car back. I had to get my own car. I had a $550 car payment. I had nowhere to live. I was staying with my brother. And it was an interesting point for me because it was so scary, but I'm so glad that I did it because then within 6 months, I opened up my own salon and I opened a commission salon in Pennsylvania. There's no booth rent isn't allowed there. So I opened up a commission salon and I owned that salon for 11 years before I sold it in 2016. Yeah, on and off, I was behind the chair for about 20 years. I worked behind the chair in my salon until about 1 year before I sold it in 2016. So yeah, that's kind of long-winded, but that's the story.
Yeah. Well, so in your journey, I mean, you've seen kind of like me, I've seen a lot of different things happen in an industry and you've seen 10 years more of that because I started in 2004 and you started about 10 years before that. From where you were when you first started working outside of school to today, I mean, there's social media and there's other ways to market. How did you build a business before there was social media?
I handed out flyers on cards, okay? Like old school grassroots flyers on cars, flyers in apartment buildings, a lot of partnership and networking, with business so B2B networking, grassroots, handing out cards, doing events, going to trade shows. Like that's what you had to do. And a lot of it was referrals too. But even though I came back to my hometown in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, I didn't have clients. All of the clients that I was doing when I worked at 20-Minute, they were all gone. So it was just really friends and family. So it was a lot of networking. It was a lot of face-to-face and getting out and shaking hands and literally putting flyers on cards. Can you imagine doing that now? I mean, it's so different. It's so much more socially driven. But that's how I did it. And it was a struggle. It was a struggle for sure. I thought that I was going to do so much better. When I first opened, I thought that I was going to be so much busier because I was in my hometown and I was back there and I knew a lot of people. And nope, it was a tough go at it, but eventually ended up turning around and being a very successful business.
Right. A lot of us have that misconception too. It's like you build this incredible space and like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. And then you realize you open the doors and like, okay, where is everybody? Why are they not lined up here? Oh, they need to know about the space. Oh, I need to actually market it. I got to post more than 2 photos on a page that nobody follows to actually draw people in. And I know we've talked a couple of days ago on your podcast, and I know you feel how I feel. What are stylists missing today with marketing? I mean, this is kind of like a leading question, but I mean, how important is it for them to kind of start learning how to do old school marketing, like networking? I mean, how can we tell the stylists today, this is what you really need to do? Social media, great. But if you really want to take it to that next level, you need to learn on your personal skills, interpersonal skills.
I think now because things are kind of slowly getting back to normal, where we can get out and network. So I do believe that social media marketing is hands down one of the best ways to attract new business. I also believe that a strong referral program, if it's done right, is another strong way to build your business. But I, again, with the old school thought process, is really believing in face-to-face networking. So now that we're getting back to it, it's seeing people out at Macy's and like, oh my God, I love your hair. Oh my God, who does your hair for you, right? Going to the MAC counter, going to a makeup counter and talking to them because they're in the same industry. Who does your hair? Oh, I'm a new hairstylist. I would love for you to sit in my chair, right? A big part, honestly, of the way that I did grow my business after I got out of my first 5 years, which was incredibly tough, was joining my chamber. And in the Lehigh Valley where I lived, it's one of the biggest chambers in the country. And I dove headfirst into my chamber and I sat on the board for the Women's Business Council. I was VP of programs. Like, I got invested. And let me tell you something, I met some of the most amazing women that were so dedicated to my business and coming to my salon because they trusted me, that if you can get involved with a chamber or your community, you got to work it though. You got to work the program. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just sign up for the chamber and then all of a sudden think people are going to come. You have to be a part of it and make sure that you're creating relationships. This business is all about relationships. So if there's one thing that's missing, it's that face-to-face networking. It's that literally not hiding behind a screen and really tapping into sliding into someone's DMs. It's going up to them and saying, oh my God, I love your style. I love your hair. I would love to do your hair. How do we make that happen? Like, who are you seeing? Because a lot of times they're like, oh, guess what? My girl just went out on maternity leave. Like, yeah, I've been looking for someone. I think that's what's missing is that face-to-face. And now that things are slowly but surely getting back to normal, I think that we are craving face-to-face communication. Like, we're craving that. And so I think networking, old school, it's going to blow up again.
You talked earlier on about the strength and power of a good referral program. So I expect that you have a lot of experience with that. So what would you say is a good referral program that you could coach people on here?
Sure. Yeah, I can give some bits and pieces because it really is like a whole system. But when you're looking at a referral program, you have to make sure that it's conducive enough and it's going to be enticing enough to make someone switch and leave their stylist that they've been with for 4, 5, 10 years, but also where you're not just giving services away, right? So there is a percentage. So typically, we don't create a promotion for the referral program that is more than 20% of your average ticket in the salon, right? Another tip for creating a good referral program is that you typically would offer $5 more for the loyal guest than you would for the new guest because they're already loyal. They deserve more. And that's a good rule of thumb. And also using dollars as opposed to using percentages. Because nobody wants to figure out what they're getting, whip out the calculator, like, oh, am I going to save $30 today? Like, is it 20? Is it 15? Like, what is it? Do you know what I mean? So we want to make it very clear and convenient for the guest. And my last tip on referral programs would be make sure that you have cards that you're physically handing out, but you also have a digital version of your referral program so you can send it through text and through email. So then they can forward it to their friends and family and fill up your chairs with all of the goodness,
One thing I used to do too, which was helpful, was I called it my Starbucks referral program. Because I mean, who doesn't like getting a Starbucks card, and just enough for a coffee, which is like about $5, right? It's funny how we pay so much for coffee, which you can make for pennies on the dollar, but but we still go every day. So the Starbucks referral program is, I would just go to Starbucks or wherever they sell Starbucks cards, they sell them like Target now. You go and just get a bunch of cards, maybe 20, 30, 40 cards for $5. It's a little bit of investment up front, but you get $200 worth of cards. You get a lot of $5 cards. Then when your favorite clients, not all your clients, but your favorite clients, which you wish there were more of them in your salon, you'll go up to them during their service while they're getting processed or whatever and just say, give them a card and just say, your next Starbucks is on me. I just want to tell you that I really appreciate you. And by the way, do you know anybody like yourself that might be looking for somebody like me? And by asking them in that way, I've learned through like NLP and whatnot, they're taking it as a compliment, like, oh, like me. Who do I know that's like me? It's actually forcing them to search in their brain as opposed to saying, do you know anybody? They're like, oh, I don't know, because that's just too broad. You got to give them something specific and say like, anybody like yourself that just gives them a compliment and warm feeling. And then they're like, oh, I just got this coffee and it's memorable. It's just, you're going slightly out of your way and they're going to hopefully go out of their way and refer somebody to you.
I love that idea.
Another thing I've learned too is that a lot of clients in our chair, they don't know that you're looking for business because they don't see you with an empty chair because they're sitting in it.
Right.
You got to tell them, right?
Listen, you have to ask, and don't be afraid to ask your loyal, loving guests. Ask them for help. Ask them for referrals. I talk about this with my VIP gift card program, giving gift cards similar to what you're doing with your Starbucks, but it's with gift cards for the salon. We wrap them up. We do a thank you card. There's a whole thing around it. And you pick your top 10 clients in your salon and you do this with them. And it's so true. If they think that you're busy all the time because they're in your chair, they don't know that you're looking to grow unless you say, hey, Linda, guess what? I have this awesome gift card program. I want to present this to you. I would love for you to give 2 of these gift cards to friends and family, people who are just like you that would love to sit in my chair and have not yet sat in my chair. And I like how you're doing that with the Starbucks too, because this is the same way where it's like, Linda, I value and appreciate you. Thank you so much. Here's a little gift for you. And by the way, if you have people who are just like you because you're amazing, I would love to spend more time with people just like you. So do you know anyone? It's just having the conversation. Your clients want to help you get busy. They want you to make more money, so you just have to ask.
Well, think about how much you like your hair. If, of course, you have to like your hair, but if you go and get your hair done by your stylist and you go to a certain guy or a certain gal and you just love what they do, it's like a favorite restaurant. You tell all your friends about it. You want to share that and letting them know that I need some more business, that I'm desperate for new clients now, that I would just like more people in my salon and really I could use their help. Then like, oh, you should go to my guy. Oh, try this restaurant.
Yep. Oh, yeah. People friends love sharing. Like I had a really good crew of teachers when I was a hairstylist. Teachers, they talk. Nurses, they talk, right? When someone loves you, they're going to tell all of their nurses and teacher friends about you. And then boom, now you have a whole cluster of them. And they are, if that's your perfect target client, for me, it was, they make the best clients because it's like, first you have 1, then you have 2, and then all of a sudden you have 5, and then it's 10. And now everybody in the school and in the hospital knows about you and they want to spend time with you. So you've got to talk about it. There really isn't anything. You got to create your own opportunities. If you want to get busy, it's not going to happen while you're sitting in the back room. You've got to be aggressive. You got to be assertive and you have to have a plan. And really it's utilizing the clients that already know, love, and trust you.
So let's switch gears a little bit here. How long into your career did you get into coaching? When did you start that?
So I actually started and I found my first coaching book from 2014. Oh my God, it was so bad. I'm so glad I didn't go that route. Uh-huh. But it was in 2014. I still owned my salon at the time, but I was already dwindling down my days behind the chair. So I opened my business, started working 6 days, then 5. And then we all went to a 4-day week when I had my stylist with me. We worked 4 days. Then I went 3, then 2. And then I eventually stopped working behind the chair with 1 year left before I sold. And so at 2014, we were still in heavy growth because from year 1 to year 5, it was tank city. Okay. I almost closed twice. I made really poor financial decisions, got myself into a hole. And so the 1 through 5 was horrible, but year 6 to 11, it was 20 to 30% growth year over year. And that was because I had an amazing team that were really dedicated to themselves, but also to my brand. And so I knew though, and I always remember my mentor, Ray, saying to me, your strength is not behind that chair. Your strength is out there helping other people. And the longer that you stay behind that chair, it's going to limit your growth and potential to helping and inspiring other people. And I would it would ring true in my mind every single day. So 2014 started somewhat trying to coach and get some curriculum together. And then in 2016 is when I sold my business officially. My husband and I ended up moving out of Pennsylvania and moved to Connecticut for his job. And it was then, so I sold in October of 2016. And then January of 2017 is when I started actually coaching. So It's been about over 4.5 years now. It's crazy. Time flies.
That's amazing. So no salon anymore, full-time coaching.
Yeah, no, sold it back in 2016. And you know what? To be totally transparent at 100, I did not look back.
That's amazing.
And I think salon owners that are listening, you have to pay attention to how you feel when you're running your business every day. And I promised myself that when I am tired and when I cannot give my team and my clients 150%, it was time to pack it in. And so it was about a 2-year plan. I felt it was coming and I wanted to have an exit strategy. So I planned it that way. But I just didn't want to shortchange my team. I love them. Like I feel like they're still my team. I still call them my team, even though it's been so long, but we still have good relationships with them. And I love them and want to see them do very well. And so it was hard because you know how it is. Like you get so close with your clients. And then of course my team, they're like my children, but I just didn't want to shortchange them. I worked 365 days a year nonstop for 11 years straight. And I was tired and it was time. And it just was my next step. It was what I wanted to do. So people ask me all the time, do you miss owning a salon? Do you miss doing hair? I'm like, nope. It was
close
so
that
great.
chapter.
I loved it, but I closed the door, So yeah, I never looked back.
Now you talked about early on in your salon ownership days that you had some financial mistakes, some challenges. Can you talk about those terrible times? And are they challenges that are common that where they just happen in your life, or is it something that salon owners face regularly?
I think it was a bit of both. I think that my relationship with money really played a factor in the decisions that I was making financially. I felt that I had to prove something to myself and to other people that I could make this happen and make it a success. I come from nothing. My family does not have money. We struggled. We lived check to check. My mom didn't work for a period of time. My dad was carrying a lot of the weight. My mom started working maybe when I was like 6 or so. It wasn't like I come from this supportive, I came from a supportive background with my mom, but nobody taught me about money. When I thought about money, all I thought and saw was struggle. So that was my relationship with it. And that's kind of how I correlated it. And then when I started to open my business, I went too fast. I didn't have a marketing plan. I didn't have a strategy. I started overspending. I didn't have a target market. I didn't have a brand. And I just started throwing darts. Oh, this looks good. This looks good. Let me spend money on this, $2,000 on that, $3,000 on that. And I got myself into a hole. And I also was trying to fill voids with spending money personally, because there was a lot of just stuff that I went through in my life and trauma and things that I was working through that I spent money to fill that void. And so I made a lot of financial mistakes in a business sense, but I also made a lot of personal ones too, and compound the both of them. And it was a shitstorm. So after year 1, I had $800 left in my bank account. I almost closed. And thankfully, I ended up running an ad in the local newspaper. Like now we're going back, local newspaper, and ended up running like an article about me and my business. And people love to read that stuff. And after it went full circulation, I had like 18 voicemails. People wanted to come in and my business took a turn. And then the recession hit. So now we go through to 3 years later, the recession hit. I had gotten myself deeper into debt and I was $90,000 in debt and the recession hit. So not only was I broke, I was in a really bad abusive relationship. I had no money and I had an employee that was with me that we were trying to make it work and it just wasn't working. We had clients then coming in once every 3 months instead of once every month or, 4 or 5 weeks. And I took a huge risk because if I didn't take this risk in moving my salon, I would have lost my salon. So at year 5, I decided to, now keep in mind, I'm broke. So 90,000 in debt, have no money. I asked my best friend, Gus, for $5,000. I found a location that was a beautiful salon, brick and mortar, beautiful storefront that I had my eyes on. And it just so happened that my friend Tony was friends with the owner of the building, got me in, spoke well for me. And Vince, his name was the landlord, took a chance on me. My credit was shot. He knew I had no money. And he ended up working with me and really taking a chance on me and gave me an opportunity. And we moved into this new space. So I went from about 700 square feet to 1,600 square feet. I got new stylists. I joined the chamber. I was out and about. I was marketing, networking 3-4 times a week. And we rehabbed the space with $5,000. My friends and family came in and helped and painted and did all the things. And I kind of started over at that point. And so Within 1 year, I was able to pay my friend Gus back his $5,000. And from that point, it was growth after growth after growth. And it was because, so listen, guys, it was my fault that I got into my mess. It was my fault. I owned it. It was nobody else's fault. It wasn't my stylist's fault. It was nobody's fault but my own. And until I owned my own shit and took accountability for my mistakes, that's when my business structure and model became clear. That's when my brand became clear. That's when my vision became clear. And that's when I started to really attract stylists that were for me and my brand. And, a lot of them were with me for a good 4, 5, 6, the longest was about 7 years. And so, man, was it a ride. Let me tell you, it was really tough. And I thought to myself, at this point, when I'm ready, thinking I'm 5 years in and I have no money and I'm going to have to close, I actually sold my home to keep my business. That's how bad it became. But I made that choice because I was committed and I was responsible for my team. It actually even gets me emotional, like when I'm telling you right now, like I was responsible for them feeding their families and I could not disappoint them. I could not close those doors. Like I was not failing. So I prayed every night and I was like, I am not giving up. And so I decided to sell my home to keep my business and it paid off. I'm grateful that I went through that. It taught me how to manage my money. It taught me how to believe in myself. It taught me to rely on my team and give them hope, and inspiration because they were with me, as this was happening. And it really changed the course of my life. And thankfully, my business grew and was very profitable that I was able to sell it.
Now, all these epiphanies that you had looking back about like owning your shit, I could just call that this episode, Own Your Shit. But you're taking responsibility for your actions and your success and your failures as well, or we call discoveries, right? So, of course, as somebody's going through something like this, which I went through something similar, in my own journey and the whole debt and bankruptcy and whatnot. So I know exactly how you were feeling in a sense that, at the time a lot of us are looking at this situation. We're like, why me? Why is this happening to me? And then of course we look back years later and be like, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. It's not something that we realize as we're going like, oh God, I love being broke and poor and not having any business. This is great. No, it usually takes years later when we look back and say like, now I know why that happened to me. And I'm guessing it probably hits you later on. You're like, I'm so thankful that I had that experience. As tough as it was, I'm thankful that it happened because I'm happy with who I am today.
Mm-hmm. I would do it all over again.
God, that sounds terrible, but yeah, I would too.
Right? I know,
Yeah.
don't you feel like so much stronger?
Uh-huh.
And I would do it all over again because I feel like it gave me a sense of strength and a sense of self-worth that I know that I could do anything. That was probably the bottom for me. Like I was bottom of the barrel at that point. And I know that if I could get through that, I can get through anything. And it took me years to get to that point because it took me about 4 years to get out of that debt. So I went into like a debt consolidation program. That's what worked for me. And I was able to pay off that debt and now be debt free. I mean, we're going back years because this was probably 2010 that this was happening. But I wouldn't change it because even when I had my salon and we were doing well and we were bringing in money and we were making money and everything, I was finally able to get paid. I was able to pay myself after year 7. I would still operate from the space of being broke because I knew that it could all go away. Even to this day, I still operate from the space of like, that could happen. I don't dwell on it, but it drives me. Do you know what I mean? When you're broke like that and not once, but twice, and you sell your home and you're like struggling to pay and you have employees, like I needed that wake up call. I needed to dive deeper into my relationship with money. And honestly, I needed to dive deeper into my own struggles within self because that had a lot to do with it too. So I did a lot of therapy and I still do a lot of therapy. I started therapy when I was 21. And I think it's so important for us as stylists because we give so much. There's so much output and there's not a lot of input. And we always put ourselves second. So I would do it again. And I would continue to, I wouldn't change anything. I would definitely do it again for sure. It sucked though at the time.
It would suck having to do it again. That would really suck. But,
Yeah.
but if it does happen again or something does terrible happen again, in our lives, I know we're going to look at it and be like, well, this really sucks. I don't want to be here, but it's happening for a reason. It's happening to make me stronger, to look at it with new eyes. And it's a new challenge for me to overcome and really tap into my own personal power. Yeah. So you started your coaching in 2017, and then you moved into the online space. Is that something that you did at the same time in 2017, or did you start to move in and create online courses years later? When did that happen?
So yeah, I didn't get into digital right away. I started doing a lot of face-to-face, in salon, face-to-face interaction, Zoom calls, things like that. It was in December of 2019 that I had my first online membership program, which is kind of like, I just like to say it's like a Netflix for the beauty industry. There's collections, meaning like branding, Instagram, business structures, things like that. You pick and choose what you want to go see. There's no structure to it. You're just like scrolling. I like that. Oh, I need that. Let me watch that. So I believe that was I don't think that was in 2019. And I've been running that ever since. So now we're about 3.5 years in on that. And then last year with 2020 really hitting and changing the course and path for everyone, I was putting off creating a 5-week course for suite owners and renters and putting off an 8-week course for commission salon owners because I mean, there's so much that goes into creating a digital course. And it's not just like we just plug things in. Like there's so much, just not only on the recording side, but just the platform and plugging in all of the verbiage and the PDFs and all of that. So 2020 really forced me to do that. So I was able to create both of my courses last year and both business courses, one for suite owners, renters, make that money, and then Synergy for my commission owners. And they've been going really, really well and thank God that happened last year because I probably would still be sitting here talking to you thinking, I really got to get into those courses, And I just saw an opportunity and I had the time to be able to create them. But digital, really, I mean, it's the way to go. You have to be digital in some way, shape, or form with your business right now.
Right. It's the absolute future, especially if you want to make money while you sleep. And we talk about that. Like, how can you make money while you're asleep if you're a hairstylist? Well, that's how. And we all have a specialty. We all have our own personal gifts, and people are just selling information. They're selling their perspective online. So every single hairstylist could have their own education out there. I mean, you look now and a lot of people are doing it and turning into their own online training programs. But I mean, even personally, I've got several subscriptions and memberships to personal growth specialists outside of the industry. It's not like I just want to follow one person. I want to follow a lot of different ones because they all have something different to teach, even if it's in the same space. So if people are thinking about whether or not they should do it because everybody else is already doing it, it's still early. There's so much to get started with now. And just like anything else, people will drop off. People will realize, oh, wait, okay, I created great content, but not only do I have to keep creating content to build up these libraries or build up these courses, I actually have to play online customer service. I have to do so much extra. I gotta edit videos. I have to maybe pay for a videographer, and it's all exciting and fun at first, but as it grows, and that's if people are actually signing up, you're going to have people that are like not happy, just like you have customers that are not happy, and they're calling their credit card companies and saying, hey, this is fraud. I'm like, you signed up, you put your credit card in to pay for this.
Right.
But just like you have those like one-off people, if you have a good product, the majority of people are going to be fantastic and appreciate what you do. But there is a huge learning curve with online. So you started early, and I started early. I started in 2017, and I'm so glad I did, because even those people that are starting now, I mean, you're already ahead of them, and not only in knowledge, but being already on the online space and knowing how to launch courses. And same with me. It's like I already have all these people in place for the online course that we're already years ahead, and we're already staying ahead. But that doesn't mean somebody shouldn't jump into it.
Sure, absolutely. You have to, because, and listen, it doesn't have to be this elaborate course. It could be one video of your specialty. It could be something that you start off with, right? It could be something that you're passionate about that you've been pushing off, and maybe you just need to get a videographer. Maybe you just need to write the script for it. Do it. Don't wait, because you're right. There are we saturated right now, or maybe overly saturated with education? Sure. But I really feel that there is a person for everyone. There is a connection. Like, I could say the same thing as you. We could talk about the same things, but maybe people connect more with the way that you deliver information than me, right? Or vice versa. So, but you have to find your niche. You have to find your thing that you're passionate about that can be conveyed through education virtually, because it's different than conveying a message one-on-one, face-to-face. You really have to be able to have a presence to teach virtually, and the content has to be there. It has to be strong. And you're right, the strongest will survive in the beauty industry in terms of education, whether it's virtual or it's, in person. And it is a lot of work, but it's so worth it. So don't wait. Don't wait, guys. Really, really get into it and do it if it's something that you're passionate about.
What's next for you?
Whew, I ask myself that often. Oh man, I want to write a book, and this is something that I've talked about now for over a year, and I am procrastinating because I just don't know the direction that I want to go yet. I have ideas, and I'm just kind of dragging my feet on it because I want it to be perfect. So that's really what is next for me. Continuing to grow the podcast with Jay, of course, and really diving into, I'm with Oligo. I'm their education ambassador for Oligo professionals. So kind of just building and nurturing that relationship with them. My partnership with Schedulicity is awesome. I love them. I write business blogs and do vlogs for them. So continuing to nurture those relationships. But if you ask me what I would want to be next, I always envisioned like
dolphins.
Big, yes. I envision dolphins. Exactly, in my wetsuit, just getting down in dirt. No, I envision big stage. I envision just a lot of people having aha moments, like speaking engagements and being with people, like thousands of people, where we're all learning from each other, where we're all having those aha moments, where we are being vulnerable and we are sharing stories like being broke, and it's okay. We are talking about mental health and anxiety because it's okay. And so that's kind of where I see myself, but I don't know when that's going to happen just because of, COVID and when things are going to be opening up, but I'm ready to go. And in the meantime, I'm going to try to work on this book that I've been talking about.
I've had the same issue, if that helps. I wrote a book about, I don't know, 5 years ago now, and it was called Sweet Success. It's when I was made a lot of success in a small salon suite. And I wrote the book there about how I did it. And a lot of the same principles apply, but now it's like the book, it started out as like Lord of the Rings. It was like 400 pages long. And then I sent it to an editor, which was my wife and my wife's mom. And, I couldn't really afford an editor. So I had them do it, and they did a wonderful job. But then it went from Lord of the Rings to like this little magazine pamphlet you'd find in like the dentist office, because they took out all the Ryanisms and all the redundancies and all the things that just didn't make any sense for the book. But it really just gave it the meat and potatoes of it. But it wasn't like the book I had envisioned. It's great because I could just give it away and stuff. But I'm almost, I don't want to say embarrassed about it, because I'm like, I wrote a book. It's not a very long book, but now I look at it and I'm like, the spacing's off here, the margin's off. Like I said this twice, because it's like even when you edit something 2, 3, 4 times, you still miss things. It's unbelievable. So I'm not quite like, I'm ready for my next book, the one with an actual spine with my name on the back of it. Yeah. And I keep saying like, I want to write a book, but what the hell am I going to write about? I don't know what I'm going to write about. And I feel like it's going to come to me soon. I feel like it's going to come to me soon. I'm going to be like, this is what I need to write about. But yeah, I'm with you.
You're right. It will come. And I feel like I get closer and closer. Like I get more clarity, as I'm doing this and as I'm spending time with people. I mean, my goal really and truth, I love the beauty industry. I'm so fortunate that I get to do what I love in the beauty industry, but I love growing people. That is my passion. I love watching people win. I love watching the underdog because I was the underdog. I love watching them rise to the top. And so that's the kind of, like, I even get chills just kind of thinking about it. So that's kind of where I lean when I think about writing a book that's more inspirational, but it has to add value and be like tip driven. But when you pull the trigger on that, you know how hard it is. Like, it's a book. So when it's done, it's done. Like, you can't go back on it. It's not like a virtual, like, oop, let me backspace. No, like, it's printed. So it is really hard. But I think you're right. It'll come to you too when you're ready.
And I'm sure you like journal and stuff like that and take notes of your life and times when you have ahas and whatnot. And I think even like revisiting past journals and things, you'll start to put the pieces together and I realized recently that I've been struggling with a lot of things for years and years, and didn't occur to me that I've had the same problems, some of the same issues and challenges for, a decade now from looking at past journals. I'm like, I'm still dealing with this. It's time to like get over this hump. And I did a podcast yesterday that's coming out next week. And I touched on that, and I took it to a whole different vulnerable level And kind of like what you had talked about, like I want to start to share this stuff on stage and really talk about like what really makes us up, the anxiety, the depression, the mental challenges that we have at times and what we face to really truly become who we are. Not just like paint this rosy picture like, oh yeah, I got this thriving business. This is all you got to do. No. Just wake up at 4 a.m. every single morning. It doesn't matter if you've got kids. You could be a dad too. You can do everything.
And the other twist on that is like showing up on Instagram and making everything look perfect, because that's not the truth. You know what I mean? I think people now more than ever are being so much more vulnerable. And if you guys go follow my page, you'll see I share a lot of being broke. I share what haunts me about being broke. I just shared that about maybe a month and a half ago. And I think it's so important for us to share that. Are we successful in our own right? Like what we think is successful, because everybody has their own definition to it. Sure. But we are still human. And I will speak for myself that I am still a work in progress. I am still on the struggle bus days here and there. I'm still learning about how I can be better. And I'm still working through anxiety and trying to manage that and trying to maintain and not feel bad about it. You know what I mean? Like we're still going through. So the shit that you see on Instagram, a lot of times with a lot of people is not reality. So I love that you're opening up yourself to share more of that stuff, because that's where the magic happens and that's where true connection happens. And so I'm excited. I'm going to listen to that podcast when it drops. Did you say next week?
It should be on Monday. Yeah,
Awesome.
I cry too. I cry on that a little bit.
You did?
I did. Yeah, it really touched me. I'm an emotional guy. And I think more and more that's going to come out with what I'm doing now, the new direction that I'm taking, because I'm really just exploring kind of my truth. And I want to share that with other people, because just like you're saying, it's important to show that we are imperfect and nobody's perfect. We're human, right? And to get to be successful, you have to have a lot of challenges and you face a lot of obstacles along the way.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I got so emotional and I thought to myself, oh no, because I thought you looked a little weepy, but I was unsure. But I started to get emotional. I was like, is he going to get emotional too? Like, how are we going to get through this? But no, I think it's so dope that a guy can live in his like vulnerable state and be true and like feel his emotions. And I'm so happy that you're going to start sharing that stuff. I'm definitely going to be tuning into that.
Well, Nina, it's been such a pleasure having you on here. Let's talk more. Let's exchange phone numbers, as we don't actually text each other yet. But I want to do something with you on a grander scale someday soon. And you inspire me every day. So how can people find you?
Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. And I told Jay the other day, I was like, I just love him. He is so smart and so funny. And like, I feel like I've known you for a long time, so thank you so much for having me. You can find me on Instagram because that's where I live. Just my name. So at Nina Tulio. And if you want to check out my website, it's ninatulio.com.
Thank you so much, Nina. Just real quick, you just said that, you're so smart. And it was so funny. The other day, I'm just like, I'm not that smart. And I was telling myself, I'm just really good at a few things, but I'm not really that smart, right? I did the podcast I did yesterday. You'll listen to it. I said I'm 43. I got my age wrong.
That's just a moment that comes with age. That doesn't mean that you're not smart. Like people get their age wrong all the time. You're very smart.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
I love hearing from you. And by the way, have you subscribed to the podcast yet? Oh my gosh, if you haven't, please do so right now because there's so much cool stuff ahead. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because it would be much cooler if you did. Plus, I don't want you to miss any of the new episodes I'm dropping weekly. Last thing, if you haven't checked out ryanweeden.com yet, there are some great freebies on there that I want to give you. So go ahead and check it out, ryanweeden.com. Thank you so much for listening. You are awesome.